Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? Hope that you're doing well wherever you are in the world today. I'm very excited to be back with you with another episode with my guest and friend, Scott Feld, who is the creator of Mind Zen Motion. Scott, my friend, what is happening in your world today?
Here in San Diego, California. We are not getting the weather that we paid for. It is overcast, cloudy. We expect sunshine every day. But besides all of that, I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, my friend. It's very exciting to have you here because I love your mission. I love your message and what you're working towards. For those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about your backstory and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, and I live in San Diego. I own this company, Mind Zen Motion. This is something I started only about 2 years ago. I have been leading an entertainment company for kids and teens and adults sometimes as well. It's an interactive company where we did a bunch of games and activities for all sorts of different events. At the COVID pandemic time, that obviously got shut down pretty abruptly. However, it gave me this amazing opportunity to take something that was a passion of mine, which is really sort of the both traditional personal development and life skill type study, but also the spiritual and theological, and kind of put it all together. And I wanted to teach and coach those who I knew best, which are kids and teens, these types of skills, this type of thinking. That it was obvious that they were really at the effect of their lives, and COVID had just really added to that for them. And it, created a lot of frustration. It created anxiety. Their answer to that, because they had no other answer, was kind of run away and escape, or look for ways to kind of pump up the endorphins and have something good happen where it didn't seem like a lot was. And so oftentimes that happened in bad places at bad times, doing things they not normally or really didn't want to do, but that's where they ended up. So I found out that I thought I was switching my career, kind of abruptly, and it was shown to me that I wasn't. It was shown to me that you don't take 25 years of working in entertainment with kids and teens and kind of throw that away and go, okay, now I'm a life skills coach or whatever you want to call it. You take that 25 years and you bring it to this, and you make this entertaining, you make it interactive, you make it engaging, you make it fun, and that'll be sort of that's my unique sort of selling proposition, I guess, or what is unique about me and how I can bring, mindset training, social emotional intelligence, which really on the surface, lots of people do, psychiatrists, psychologists, they do it, therapists do it. However, I've been able to create a way for it to be games, for it to be fun. And I've had like I said, it was about a year in the making and about a year that I've had it out there. And the success I've had is shown in the way that I would want it to be shown. And that is kids write in, oh my gosh, now I know how to be confident. Oh my gosh, now I really know what a goal is. Oh my gosh, some of the anxiety has like fallen off of me now. I can breathe, right? And this is important stuff because without it, they were going a certain direction, and that was backwards and away from probably what they really wanted for themselves in their life. And now all of a sudden, with the load lifted off, a new way to think, they could kind of charge forward. And inside of my program, we give them skills in order to, now that you're going that direction, what about when things come up? What about when they come up from inside of you, like your own internal dialogue? What about circumstances and challenges that inevitably come up whenever you go into something new, uncharted territory, out of your comfort zone? And what do you do about it? And so we talk all about, conscious and subconscious thinking and pre-programming and how to reprogram. And we talk about how to make that the kind of new you that you go to, which is neural pathways. But again, if I go and talk to a bunch of 12-year-olds about their neural pathways, I'm probably going to get crickets and yawns. And I knew that. So instead, we talk about the trails that you hike on, and we use kinetic sand and take our fingers and sticks and dig some trails inside of the kinetic sand. And I show them this is what happens. This is how the more you think about this certain thought, the deeper it gets, the more it becomes your go to. And right now, most likely if things aren't going well, you've been digging these, I can't do it, things are hard, things are bad. And a lot of people from the outside world, whether it be media or friends or whatever, are going, I know things are hard. I know things are tough. And you're like, yep, that's the right path I should be digging. And then all of a sudden you get that shift and you go, wait a minute, hold on. Things might, be how they are out there. But for me, I get to think however I want. And then that can change the experience of what it is. And I can be, again, moving forward, not being moved backwards. And man, Michael, I wish I had all of this that I talk about and I teach when I was a teenager, because I know for myself that I was always at the effect of how life occurred to me, how it came to me. And the biggest thing, the biggest drug that we all seem to go for is approval. And we all just are looking for somebody to say that we're good and we did it. And, it's a thing where it doesn't last. Like you're not always being approved, And for the kids these days, it's social media approval, which I didn't have. I'm too old for that. So social media approvals, the filters, and did you do this? And did you say the right thing? Do you look the right way? And oh my gosh, these kids are just, in full, am I being approved mode? And so their feeling about themselves, their confidence and steam levels just go up and down with the tides. And they feel like they have zero control. Everybody else has control. But when I show them and I tell them, I go, look, this is what's happening. You actually gave away your power. You're letting everybody else control you. You're letting everything control you. Is that what you want to do? No. Well, that's what you're doing. Let me show you another way. And the other way is, what do you really like to do? Let's follow a path. Let's create a path. Let's follow a path of stuff that you would really like to do. Let's go try some things out that you haven't tried out because you've been too scared or too afraid. And when you do that, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get support. So I tell them, support is what we're going for. People coming out of the woodwork says they love to see somebody who's up to something and doing something great. And here they come out here to lift you up, to show you some things you wouldn't have seen if you hadn't been on that trail. And they really love that. And it gets them switched, right? From going, oh my gosh, life is so hard. And I hope people like me, to I'm creating my own life and people are coming along with me to help me out. And I'm doing the same for others. And now I feel good about myself. So that's the short story. Long.
We'll be right back to the show, my friend, but I wanted to let you know about our brand new podcast community for Think Unbroken podcast. I know that for so many trauma survivors like myself, for the longest time, I felt alone, like nobody got it, nobody understood, and that I was just going to have to figure this out on my own. But that's not true. And the reason why we created our brand new Think Unbroken Academy podcast community is so that we can bring all the members of the Unbroken Nation together in a place where we can learn, grow, heal, change, and transform our trauma into triumph. I would love to have you come and be a part of the brand new community. Just check out thinkunbrokenacademy.com or click the link in the podcast description. And I cannot wait to see you there, my friend. Again, just head over to thinkunbrokenacademy.com. And until then, be unbroken. Yeah, I love that. And I think it's so important. And you alluded to something that I had the same thought on. Like, I wish that I would have had access to information like this as a kid. I mean, you go look, statistically, your zip code is a better indicator of success in your life than almost any other variable. And when you have children who, like me, grew up in these environments where it's like stress and panic and chaos and pain and suffering and hurt, and so much of that, if you can step into and mitigate the risk of in my thoughts, the unfortunate inevitable downfall that comes along with that zip code, that's where the real win is. Speaking and looking at what you've been able to build and create and understanding the impact that you can have on children, what are the things that parents and people listening right now, because I know I have teachers listening, we have social workers listening, therapists working, what are some tools that they can start applying right now to help mitigate, hopefully, a downfall and a rock bottom for these kids as they're coming through these social pressures and a world of chaos and COVID and arguably probably the hardest time in history to be a kid?
Yeah, I just think that the best thing that we can do is stop focusing on all of the bad, all that stuff, not even really talk about it. I mean, we can acknowledge it's there. We don't have to pretend it's not, but we don't have to give so much energy and so much power to it, because then it keeps bringing us down. That's what we think about. And we think things are really, really bad. But, it's a media thing. We all know that. At the same time that all of the bad things that are happening, where that's grabbing all of our attention, if we're allowing it, there's a million great things happening. We just don't hear about them. We just don't get to see them quite as much unless we really go searching for them, right? And so we have to understand that what's being put in front of us isn't something that we have to really internalize. And we will more internalize it if we don't have a mission and a plan and a goal of some sort. And if you're 12, it doesn't have to be what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. It can be a stepping stone of something I would like to accomplish when I get to high school. And what can I do today? Right. And then you have an action and a thought energized towards and focused towards that. And so when all the other stuff starts coming in, it holds less power. It gets less of your attention because you've sort of narrowed in to what you want instead of narrowed in to what you don't want to happen in your life, but that's all you can see. So when we're able to kind of open our eyes, first of all, widen the lens and go, okay, so I know that there's these bad things here, and I know that's really like right in front of my face, but what else is there? And what comes from inside of me, right? Me writing the book, which we'll get to later, and me creating this course, and me running the entertainment company, and me going surfing are all things that I knew and decided I liked. And how did I figure out I really liked it and wanted to do it? I tried it out. I gave some energy and focus and attention to it. And once I did that, kind of the next steps of how to do it opened up for me, right? How to get under the wave instead of getting smashed by the wave. That's true in surfing and also in life. You can see it both ways, right? You can navigate those challenges and obstacles that used to seem impossible. I don't know how many people out there surf, but when you first start surfing, it seems fairly impossible. Like, how do I get past these waves? And how do I stand on this board? And how do I get on this? These other people are in the way. And how do I navigate? Da, 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 da. But as you continue to do it and you become, aware of new things and new ways that you never, ever, ever could have become aware of if somebody had just told you or you just read a book and it said, here's how you surf, right? That doesn't do it for you. You got to go out and go experience it. So this is the thing, is that you got to find something that you like, a few things, and go out and start experiencing it. And we can help the kids by letting them know that it's okay to feel nervous. You're stepping out of your comfort zone, right? It's not a problem. Inside the book I wrote, Dax, the main character, goes into a cave. And I did that on purpose because I love the saying that the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. Well, the treasure for these kids isn't necessarily what they think it is, money and fame and glory. What it is it's a calmness, it's a peace, it's a joy, it's a relief so that they can go enter more bigger caves. Now, as they start experiencing life that way, the money and the fame might come, right? Depending on what they do. But that's what they really want, that inner power, right? And that's why my program is called The Keys to Unlocking Your Inner Superpowers. It's not the keys to going and making $1 million.
Yeah, I love that, and I think that's such a great point. When I was growing up, and as many children growing up, how I and probably most kids now, I'd have to probably guess, it's like money, fame, power, influence. Those are the measurements for success. And I think the unfortunate aspect of the truth of that is when you get or you step into those things, you recognize that's not actually the key. And instead, the key is happiness. And you alluded to something really interesting in that, moving and pursuing these things that interest you. I was listening to Ed Milet on a podcast recently, and he said one form of abuse that people don't talk about is parents not following their dreams because you're showing your kids that it's okay not to pursue that thing. And that really struck me because I remember being young and just watching people around me just not pursue anything. And I think one of the greatest things that parents, adults, people who lead children can do is like actually show up in your own life. So I love that you alluded to that. You use the word superpowers a couple of times, and particularly I love that word. think Unbroken, the entirety of this company is to help people become the hero of their own story. And so with that, Scott, I'd love for you to break down, what are inner superpowers?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just by, my definition is the inner superpowers, they come from, obviously, as it says, inside of you, right? So the thing about inner superpowers is that we're not giving them to any kids. We're not giving them to anybody that I coach. We're showing them that they already have them. And then once they see them, there's a choice to be able to use them and strengthen them so that they become sort of their go-to, just like any power or muscle might be. So the inner superpowers that I talk about, I do them in keys, and they're the keys to unlocking. And so I start with the key ring or the base. And that's always going to be awareness, because I let them know that as they go through the process of seeing things they've never seen before, hearing things they've never heard before, which they'll do in the program, then they can start doing things they've never been able to do before, be things they've never been able to be before, and have things they've never been able to have before. And so awareness, being willing and open and able to kind of widen out your lens, not narrow focus on how things are, that's the base. And then we move into the very first one. It's the power of imagination. So imagination isn't out there, it's inside of us, and we all use it every single day. Problem is, a lot of kids and people, to be honest, before I became enlightened, I would say, and aware to this point, I could imagine the worst. I could imagine things going wrong. I could be sitting in a chair and have, whatever I was going to do, like back when I was, doing these big parties and stuff, I could think one of two ways. I could think, oh my gosh, I think the music system's not going to work, or the staff aren't going to show up, or they're going to be late. And I could get myself into a full tizzy of anxiety just sitting in a chair in my house, right? And in that position, maybe the sun is shining and a bird is singing, but totally unaware to that stuff because I've turned my imagination or my focus to the worst. So what we do is we say, look, you can imagine anything. And if you can imagine that, well, what else can you imagine and visualize? And you can visualize anything, right? Imagination is how it's not only creating what you want, but it's also creating how you would like it to go inside of your mind. So we start with like creating what you want. Like I said, I do this with fun stuff. So I pull out the Play-Doh. Everybody gets what's called a power box. This is a power box that you get when you do a program with us, a course or a quest or a power party. And I use Play-Doh. For one, it's fun. And for two, you can make it anything you want, right? So it's this, and you might want to turn this into something. And if you thought about something that you like, then you could start building it. And you might not know exactly how to turn this into, the Eiffel Tower, because what you want is a trip to study abroad in France, and that represents it for you. That could be a little bit tough, but the more you work on it, the closer it might become to looking like the Eiffel Tower, right? But if I look at it and I go, I can't do anything with this. This would be too hard to make something out of. Well, then nothing gets made of. And I live with and experience life, and this thing is too hard and me not being good enough to do it. So they really get that. The other thing I share with them is I say, why don't you give your Play-Doh to the person next to you? They're going to make whatever they want to make, and they're going to give it to you. And whatever they give to you, you're going to accept. You're just going to take it. And I tell them that's how a lot of people live their lives. Their lives are molded for them. And then they just take it and they accept it. They don't put any of their own thought into it, their own imagination into what do I want. So those are the people that ultimately end up feeling a little bit or a lot unfulfilled, right? Because there's always this sort of thing and this inner voice going, "I should have wrote that book." Or, man, we really wanted to be a ballet dancer, but here we are sitting in our cubicle, right? So I tell them, I go, look, you got to think about what you want. Not if you know how, not if you think you can, but what do you really want? And if you want to be a painter or a musician, or you want to be an athlete, a professional athlete, and all you hear is how hard it is and all that, just, let that be noise. Let that be your white noise. And why don't you make your own noise, right? Because there are painters, there are musicians, there are actors, and there are professional athletes. So it's a possibility for sure, right? And the truth is, even if it wasn't, you could imagine something into creation. My iPhone didn't exist when I was a teenager, but here it is, right? Everybody has one, or an Android. So you can even imagine things into existence. And that really opens their eyes to like, oh, I'm empowered. I can create, right? So that's an inner power, right? So that's the first one. And then, like I said earlier, they start going on this journey, and now they're in a different zone, uncomfortable, right? They're not in a place that they really know. So what happens? Well, our pre-programming, right, comes in and it goes, oh, this is scary. Don't do that, right? This is going to be too hard. You don't really need to. Let's get back over to that comfort zone. I know we weren't happy. I know we weren't I know we were unfulfilled. I know there was anxiety, and I know we were upset, and I know we didn't like it, but we knew it. We knew that place, right? And it wasn't scary to us. It just had all these other bad things, but it wasn't scary. I don't want to be here. That's that programming, right? I let them know that, there's not somebody outside of you telling you something that's the truth that you should be listening to, right? That is you in you telling you lies.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're lies. You can say whatever you want. You can reprogram it. You can start hearing that and laughing at it when it goes, "Oh my gosh, don't do it. It's too scary." You go, "You're a chicken. We're doing this." Right. And the more you do that, the more you build those new trails I referred to earlier. Right. That's when we get into our kinetic sand. We start digging those trails, those new trails. We stop digging these old trails. They start fading away and closing up. Now the new ones. I tell the kids, like a party, like they're the host of a party, and they've invited now all of their favorite, best people. These are the good thoughts. These are the thoughts that they want, that really support them and take them where they want to go. And they promise them all the food and drink, and they're going to give them all the attention. But like any party, uninvited guests show up. Here come those negative thoughts, those thoughts that go, "Hey, what about us? We're here too, right? What do we do?" And I ask the kids, I go, "What would you do if those uninvited guests show up?" And they go, "Well, we would tell them to leave. We would tell them to get out of here." And I go, "Huh, well, you could, except when you do that, you start giving them attention. Ah, now you've taken your attention off of the good thoughts, your invited guests, the ones that you promised all your attention to. So now those invited guests, the good thoughts, they're starting to get less attention. So they're getting a little bored, and they might start to leave because you're focusing all your attention, even though it's like get out of here attention on these negative ones. And so the negative thoughts are kind of stronger in your mind, and you're building those pathways. So instead, check this out. Maybe instead of telling them to leave, you ignore them. Just don't give them any focus or energy, because all your attention is going back to the positive thoughts. And every time you hear them, you just don't talk to them. You just don't listen to them anymore. And then pretty soon they're going to get bored. Those negative thoughts, those uninvited guests, they're not going to want to be there any longer. And so they're going to leave. They're going to fade away. Their power is going to go away. They're going to come less and less often.
Hey, Unbroken Nation, we'll be right back to the show, but I wanted to let you know that you can grab a copy of my first book, Think Unbroken, Understanding and Overcoming Childhood Trauma, for free. If you go to book.thinkunbroken.com, you can download the PDF ebook version of the book and get everything that I know about the baseline of healing trauma for free, downloaded to your email right now. Just go to book.thinkunbroken.com to download your copy of Think Unbroken, Understanding and Overcoming Childhood Trauma for a PDF for your phone. Again, that is book.thinkunbroken.com.
And those positive thoughts will be right there for you because you've built them up. And so when I talk to them, like, party and that kind of stuff, they really start to get it. And they really start to see, even if they don't say it, you can tell they start to see how it had been for them, how they were doing that thing, and how it could be for them, and how they could easily flip the switch, turn the light on over here, turn the dark on over here, and really get what they want in life, which is like relief. right? And they're in charge. Everything that I'm saying has them be in charge. These are inner powers. These are their thoughts. This is their imagination, right? This is their awareness. And ultimately, what we do is we get to action. Because I told them, none of this matters. If you start knowing everything about painting, but you've never painted, you don't know how to paint. You don't know how to
Truth.
paint. Yeah. And I say, so knowledge has to turn to transformation, right? Based on you getting into action. And so the first thing I do after the lesson is I send them on a scavenger hunt, right? And I go hide a bunch of stuff, including their final key, because they actually do get keys and they get a key ring and they get key tags, which reminds them of what each key is for. So this is the action, right? Thought into action. Because a scavenger hunt's the best thing to show them like little milestones. You got to go check things off on your list of things that you have to find or do. And as they're checking it off, they see themselves getting closer to the goal, which if that list had 50 things on it and you looked at it, you're like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to get to the end of this? But once you've crossed off 15, you can start seeing the end a little bit. It's like climbing a mountain, right? You're getting a little bit closer. Now you can see the top. Now you cross off, 30. Wow, you're starting to get like it's almost happening. And all of the things come in like this is hard and I'm hot and I'm tired and all that. But now they already have these other powers that they've been shown, which they can choose to use or not, but they'll never be able to unhear them. They're there now, right? They're locked in, just a matter of choice now. And so now they can get past those obstacles, those hurdles, which is what they'll do in life as they head towards their goals and their really big goals in life. And ultimately, they'll complete the scavenger hunt. They'll get that fulfilling, we did it. And I always like to say that the floor becomes, the ceiling becomes the floor. Let me make sure I say that right. The ceiling becomes the floor. Because now at that point, if I gave them 100 things to go find, well, that just got a whole lot easier in their mind than if I gave them 100 in the beginning, which just means that you can lofty, make your goals more and more lofty the more you climb them out and they start seeing. And if they have these dreams where they've been told too hard, can't do it, stay in the safe zone, do that thing, then they now feel empowered that they're in control. They can actually go make it happen. It's a pretty beautiful thing.
That's incredible and also incredibly comprehensive. And as you're sitting here going through this, I'm thinking to myself how unbelievably practical this is also for adults. And if you follow these same ideas here, it'll be fascinating to watch your life unfold and change in front of you. One of the things I think is probably true about children and teens as opposed to adults, they've not been sullied by the world yet in this aspect of improbability and impossibility and their dreams getting taken away. And I try to tell people all the time, it's like, look, your dream is literally a step away. Like every single day, if you move forward, if you do the thing that you're supposed to do, if you just take action on a long enough timeline, your dream will come to fruition. It's almost improbable that it couldn't, but you have to be willing to show up and visualize it and go towards it and shut out the haters because, dude, there's haters everywhere all the time. That's just the nature of the world that we live in. But I've seen it play out in my life, in my clients' life, and lives of people that I look up to or mentor, and it's unbelievable what happens. You have a concept that I'm really curious about that I love that I want you to dive into for the audience that I think is going to be really practical. How do you become unmessable with?
So it's unmesswithable.
I knew I was going to do that backwards.
All right. All right. It's not a real word, I don't think. So that's okay. Yeah, unmesswithable, unstoppable. So unmesswithable really means that here you are headed out towards what you want to do. You've created it, and you now have those inner superpowers that will keep, quote unquote, the enemies away, as it would be in a battle. So here you are out there, and here comes those negative thoughts, and here comes those, what you had said, those haters and those people who will try to bring you down instead of lifting themselves up. Those are not your people, by the way. You can just wish them well and keep going. And so you'll have the doubts you'll have that come from inside. You'll have the doubts that come from the outside. You'll have the obstacles. You'll have the challenges. You'll have circumstances. However, by going through this program, the promise at the end of it is you will have the tools or the keys to get past anything that could ever stop you. And that to me is truly unmesswithable. And when you're unmesswithable, meaning those things won't get to you, they won't limit you, they won't stop you, they won't draw you back to, that comfort zone again. But you'll get to keep moving on. And there's the unstoppable part. So that's what unmesswithable and unstoppable really mean.
Yeah, I love that. And we all have the ability to have that and to do that, but without the action, and I'm going to come back to this word again, but without the action, that's not going to happen. So as we go deeper into this and people are hearing about all of these different practical tools and applications, how do they really support their kids and their teens in applying these things to their life?
I think that parents, no matter who they are, and I'm a parent of a 6-year-old and I experience this myself, even though I create this, I teach this, I live this, I have my own, like my 6-year-old won't listen to me. So, you know, as parents, I think it's really important that you, first of all, become aware yourself. You're not supposed to know all of this. And your mom or your dad, and so your relationship with your kid is different than having someone like me, or my program come and show your kids their inner superpowers and how to potentially think different to get different results for things they might want in their life. So it's okay. Like if your kid wanted to play, soccer and you never played soccer and you don't study soccer and soccer's not your thing, almost everybody has a soccer coach and nobody thinks that's too weird. That's just a normal thing that you do because you give your kid somebody who can bring them and give them what it is they're asking for. Well, that's what this is. So it's great, talk to your kids, find out what their dreams are, support them in their dreams, talk to them about getting past obstacles, challenges, circumstances, and you'll do that based at your own current knowledge. And it's sometimes hard not to put your own emotion in because it is your kid and you're always, want the best. And you also kind of probably think what might be best for them. By the way, as parents, sometimes we're wrong about that. I've been wrong before about what's best for my kid. He sometimes will tell and show me, and I will follow his lead, obviously, as long as it doesn't cause injury or anything like that. So we can do it at the our levels, but it's totally great and totally okay and actually super highly recommended, not just because I have a business and a program for this, but to feel free to seek outside help, outside coaching, outside support, create a team with somebody like me because we're doing it for your kid. We don't want, not that I think a lot of parents have this, but we don't want egos to get in the way and that ego just being like, I can do this myself. And by doing that, we kind of take away from our kids something that was available and could really support change and, enhance and, empower and, really just everything for their lives. We want to give them that opportunity. And that's, why I'm here. So if you see me and here now and you're listening, you may be at this moment, just be like, that's exactly what I want for my kid. And that's why I created this.
I love that. And support is everything in this game. I tell people all the time, like, community is going to be the difference between success and failure for so many people. And one of the things about coaching and mentorship, even reading books or listening to podcasts, is when you take in this information, when you invest into it, when you gather it, you're circumventing the timeline of learning things the hard way at an extended period because you get to bring in somebody who's an expert, who's done it, has lived it, has created it, and take their 15, 20, or in your case, 25 years of experience and be able to leverage that and bring it in immediately, thus eliminating all of the failures that are along the way of learning the lesson that they already learned. And so I always very much encourage that because I found that to hold true in my life, that when I invest, when I get a mentor, when I do anything that is about circumventing that timeline, it just really exponentially impacts the way that I'm able to have success. one of the things I want to dive into, and you brought it up a little bit, is talking about your book, Dax to the Max. And the reason I want to talk about that, because there's empowering and beautiful stories in there. But instead of me taking that, why don't you tell us a little bit about that book, why you wrote it, and why people may want to read it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Dax to the Max, this is the book. It's Dax is my 6-year-old. He was 5 when I wrote this. I wrote it last year, got it published about 6 months ago, and became an Amazon international bestseller, which was really amazing for me. And then just became a certified great read for reading with your kids. So it's getting some awards, it's getting some nice accolades out there. And the reason I think it's getting that is because people really resonate. So this book is all about using the power of imagination in one specific targeted way, and that's over fear. So this book is for 3 to 7 year olds. My courses are more for like 9 to 16-year-olds. I have one program for tweens and one program for teens. So this really covers the starting points for the 3 to 7 year olds. And I did it because, I want my own son to have access to this and kids like him. And inside of the book, what happens is Dax first, in a very innocent way, learns how to use his imagination by looking at clouds like we all have and going, what do you see up there? And seeing, flowers and children. And then all of a sudden there's a wizard and then a message that says, you know, it's a rhyming message that leads him to the cave. And in the cave, where you fear to enter is going to be this thing that he doesn't know what it is yet, but if he can confront his fear, which turns into, a bear that's there, and the more he starts thinking about how scared I am, the scarier the bear becomes. The bear was just a dormant sleeping bear. And then he's shown to use his imagination a different way, a way most people don't, is what it says. The bear, and think about the bear as, exciting, fun, friendly. You're going to change, your experience of the bear, and the bear turns into a cartoon bear. And Dax gains his inner superpower because the bear begins to talk and tells him, "You did it. You're going to," and he gains his inner superpower. And that's the thing that he got from going into the cave, confronting the fear, overcoming the fear, and walking out of the cave. He walks out with a cape around his neck because he now has this inner superpower. So there's some things about the book inside of it. There's a character, Lauren, who is 16. And Lauren is sort of could be a babysitter, an older sister. It's not said specifically because I wanted people to kind of think about it. Lauren could also be sort of like an inner voice as Dax walks around. It could be a subconscious thing where he sees the clouds and he's looking up there and he starts seeing things, and then he goes and he knows he has fear that he needs to confront, right? Because there's things that he wants to do in his life. And so this is sort of the cave and the bear and all of that. Possibly, never really happens. It's just an example of a fear that you could face, or of any type of fear, and how you could face it with your imagination. So it's just kind of a cute way to make that point and get that superpower. So I wrote the book, book one, Imagination, which means that I do need to write book two, because that's just what you have to do. So there will be another inner superpower, but I did get detoured a bit because it got picked up by a production company. And so I've written a script and a script arc and a pilot, and we are going to go into, pitching this shortly, sort of loosely based on this book about kids, a weekly animated show or streaming animated show. I said weekly animated because I'm used to when I was a kid and you had to wait till Saturday morning to see your shows, but now you just watch them all at the same time. A TV show where kids will really learn it to see what it is that they're afraid of, what's causing that fear, and then going on this journey through their own mind and seeing others who have conquered the fear and accomplished the things they'd like to accomplish, and coming back with a new thought, a new awareness of how they can experience the thing that scares them, and coming out with an inner superpower. So I think it'll be a really fun but powerful show that we're going to be able to put together. So hopefully we'll get that picked up once we're ready.
Yeah, I love that. That's really beautiful. And I love the concept and theme of the book because, fear is everything in life. And it is the ability to overcome or the ability to get crippled, in which you kind of assess and navigate that fear. And one of my biggest hopes for people listening to this is to understand that if we can step into and face that fear, to your point earlier, walking into that cave, that treasure's there. Like, and I've had this thought for years now that if we can empower children with these concepts and with these ideas, then on a long enough timeline, you'll find that a lot of the self-help and the personal development work that we spend all this time creating for adults becomes obsolete. And to me, that becomes ideal. And so if we can continue to put these thoughts and concepts into the minds of children, it will be beneficial not only for them, but for us and humanity as a whole. So I love that. And I love talking about fear, especially with kids, because we know, especially if you grew up in a traumatic environment, like scary things are abound, but you can navigate them. You can figure out how to go through them. You can figure out how to also, most importantly, come through the other side. Scott, this has been an amazing conversation, my friend. Before I ask you my last question, can you tell everyone where they can find out more?
Yeah, the best place to find me is mindzenmotion.com, which is spelled mindzenmotion.com. The reason it's Minds in Motion, really what this is Zen means calm. So it's calming the mind so you can get into real action. One of my favorite quotes I heard is, we don't need to slow down, we need to calm down. And I think that's true. And so if we can calm our mind and refocus it and put our attention where we want things, where we want it to go, that will take us forward, then we can really get into action and accomplish our goals. So mindzenmotion.com, and it's info@mindzenmotion.com. And I think all my social media links will go up somewhere too. So that's all good too. Yeah.
Brilliant. And of course, we'll put the links in the show notes for the audience. My last question for you, my friend. What does it mean to you to be unbroken?
Yeah. To be unbroken, I mean, I love it because I have unmesswithable, you have unbroken, it really is just going to be that you are complete, to me, and I'm thinking about this as you say it, I think it's to have a calmness from inside and a completeness from inside. So the scars that you've gotten, we've all gotten scars, some bigger than others, sometimes broken bones and flesh wounds and all sorts of things that we've gotten from the things that we've experienced in our lives. To me, it's really about not having those continuously control you, have power over you, but instead you have this other side that's stronger. That other side is that you really know who you are, and how the things that have happened to you do not define you. And so you can define yourself. So when you are unbroken, you are definitely stronger than anything that's ever happened to you. And even more than that, in some ways, you either are or have sort of completed those past things so they don't have effect on you anymore. You've mended the bones, whatever to the wounds, or you see them as sort of your progress to where you are now. Like, you wouldn't be where you are now unless those things had happened to you. So you don't see them as things that broke you anymore. You see them as things that made you. And so I think, as I sort of made that up, as I heard the question, but I really feel that that's what unbroken is.
Brilliantly said, my friend. Thank you so much for being here. Unbroken Nation, thank you so much for listening. Please like, subscribe, comment, share, tell a friend. And until next time, my friends, be unbroken. We'll see ya. We'll be right back to the show, my friend, but I wanted to let you know about our brand new podcast community for Think Unbroken podcast. I know that for so many trauma survivors like myself, for the longest time, I felt alone, like nobody got it, nobody understood, and that I was just going to have to figure this out on my own. But that's not true. And the reason why we created our brand new Think Unbroken Academy podcast community is so that we can bring all the members of the Unbroken Nation together in a place where we can can learn, grow, heal, change, and transform our trauma into triumph. I would love to have you come and be a part of the brand new community. Just check out thinkunbrokenacademy.com or click the link in the podcast description. And I cannot wait to see you there, my friend. Again, just head over to thinkunbrokenacademy.com. And until then, be unbroken. Thank you so much for listening to Think Unbroken. Please share this episode with someone who could use it and help us move forward in our mission of ending generational trauma in our lifetime. And if you would, please take 5 seconds to pop on iTunes or Spotify, hit that 5-star, leave a review, and you can also reach out to us on social at Michael Unbroken or at Think Unbroken. And of course, you can check out our YouTube channel at Think Unbroken. Thank you for being a part of Unbroken Nation, my friends, and until next time, be unbroken.